Yes, it was Henry Cavill's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Henry, by the way. So the hashtag Henry Cavill is Superman was trending huge. We were all celebrating over on X Twitter. Then suddenly, Humberto Gonzalez and The Wrap came from nowhere to share an article that's headline said that James Gunn knows the mission. He's great. These were quotes from co-CEOs of WB Pictures, Pam Adby and Mike DeLuca, complimenting James Gunn. Now, if you click on the article, there's nothing there. Could it be that the agent of Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers Pictures, Humberto Gonzalez of The Wrap, was ordered to put those quotes out there because they were intimidated by Henry Cavill trending on social media? You have a funny way, Warner Brothers and Humberto Gonzalez of The Wrap, to wish a man a very happy birthday. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most, just ask your girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. If you're watching this on YouTube, hello. If you're watching this on Instagram, Movies TV Mad X, where we have a lot of fun, hello. Yes, so you can also follow me on TikTok, Mad Mickey's World, where I'm even more insane over there, and Snapchat, BMouth60. Mick, your host with the most. So very warm welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCU Daily. Very, 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 very soon, the marketing for James Gunn's Superman is going to kick off. It's going to be fever pitch. Superman is going to be everywhere, and it all will kick off with this main Superman trailer. And here on Movies TV Mad, I will be here to react to that trailer. I'm still excited for this movie. I hate what they did to Henry Cavill. I hate what they did to David Goyer after Man of Steel. I hate what they did to Zack Snyder. What they did to Zack after he lost his daughter was disgusting. All that behavior, Justice League, all of it, I hate it, and I will never defend it. I will never defend the tweets from James Gunn and the fancy dress stuff from James Gunn. I will never defend any of that shite. But let me be absolutely clear. I was brought up in this industry. I love cinema. I love DC. And you know I love Superman. I will absolutely be going to watch this movie, as I've mentioned before. And I will be judging this movie on its merits after I've seen it twice, back to back, on opening day. And no one is going to stop me from doing that. And I will review it on its merits. There is no agenda against Warner Brothers Pictures, James Gunn, or this Superman movie on this channel. So if you're loyal to that, if you're excited, and I'm excited, I want to see a great Superman movie. And if it's a great Superman movie, no agendas here, I'm going to tell you it's a great Superman movie. I owe that to myself as a nerd, and I owe it to you as fellow nerds. People with agendas are going to say something sucks even if it doesn't suck because they have an agenda. I have no time for that, right? No time whatsoever. But despite everything I've just said, I've got to call things out when it's time to call things out. And WB, it's to me, right, it just shows weakness, right? They can see that Henry Cavill's Superman is trending. They get scared. And all of a sudden, this quote comes out from Humberto Gonzalez of The Wrap. Now, this was a separate podcast. As far as I know, it had nothing to do with The Wrap. But suddenly, The Wrap, who always seems to, and Humberto, who seems to always have, scoops from WB and DC, it's clear he's working with them on the inside and has done for a long time. Now, this will come to no surprise. That's to no surprise to anyone. Humberto blocked me, just like the film junkie, a long time ago. I'm opinionated. I've got a big gob. I get blocked by a lot of important people who don't think I'm very important. When they think you're irrelevant, you can get away with anything. Right, let me read you the quote from Mike DeLuca from this podcast. Mike DeLuca says, "We've seen an early cut of Superman, and I don't want to bury the lead. There's a lot of marketing about to roll out ahead of its release. But," and he's talking about James Gunn, "he really understood the assignment. His heart is in the right place. His aim is true, and we're really excited about the new version of DC." Now, I want to remind you of something, right? Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby are the co-CEOs of WB Pictures. They're the big kahunas. They're in charge. Imagine if these two people were the co-CEOs of Mario's Ice Cream, right? And they were in a podcast and they said, come on, taste the ice cream, right? So Mike and Pam are sucking on the ice cream, right? And they don't like it. But they're the bosses of the ice cream factory. So on the podcast, they've got to pretend they actually like it. Do you get me? Now, they may be absolutely genuine here that they love this movie. What I'm saying to you is, of course, they're going to say they love James Gunn and they love the cut they've seen of this movie. They've got to say that. They're not going to come out and say, well, it's shit. You know, the whole studio, the whole of the entertainment industry is relying on this movie. It's so huge for cinemas, you know, movie theatre chains, and this studio, Warner Brothers, Discovery, WB Pictures, are relying on this movie to own July, to own the entire summer. This movie has to hit the box office and has to hit the box office huge. Make no mistake about that. But also, make no mistake that the reason these quotes were leaked out when they were is because the hashtag Henry Cavill is Superman was trending on social media. The worst, dumbest mistake this studio ever made was replacing Henry Cavill as Superman. You can tell me he's too old. You can tell me this. You can tell me the other. It never made any sense. The studio fell out ages ago with Henry because he had different ideas on what Superman should be than they did. They believed he was tainted and he was linked along with Zack Snyder's version of the character. So they never wanted to work with him. He pitched a Superman movie with the director of Mission Impossible Fallout, was it? They rejected it. I heard it was a great pitch, but they were always going to reject it, whatever it was going to be. You know, whether it was Citizen Kane, WB weren't going to accept anything coming from the mouth of Henry Cavill. That relationship had broken down. That's why it was a big surprise to all of us, especially me, when it was announced by Henry himself that he was back to play Superman for good. In the DCEU, he had appeared in a post-credit scene of Black Adam, but he would only work in the confines of that universe, the Black Adam universe. And The Rock was teasing a lot of things. It ended up being absolutely a BS tactic to get butts on seats so people would go and see Black Adam. Guess what? When it didn't work, Zaslav was definitely not going to have Henry Cavill back, right? Whether it was a lie, whether it was true, Henry Cavill was out the door. And I've told you before, and I'll say it again, I don't think that decision actually had anything to do with James Gunn. But who knows? We will never actually know, will we, what happened, who's responsible. But the reality is, replacing Henry Cavill as Superman was very, very dumb. They should have at least, at 42, 43, or whatever he is now, should have given him one more Superman movie at least to wrap it up and go. I don't think he could have kept on playing Superman, right? Because he isn't getting any younger. But they could have given him one more movie. But you see, it wouldn't have had to have been like this. He wouldn't have had to have got to 43 without making a sequel to Man of Steel if they just allowed Snyder's vision, if they allowed Goya's vision from the very beginning. Nolan would have stayed, right? Syncope Productions would have carried on producing the DCEU and everything would have been all right. Because Goya was going down a great direction. Nolan and Goya would have been involved. Snyder would have kept on directing the movies, right? And directing the physical the visual story of the DCEU while Nolan and Goya kind of plotted it out narratively. And it would have been brilliant because Zack's best place is as a director. He's not really a writer, right? When he's allowed to do anything he wants, that's when the problems begin. I'll say that with Snyder. But I love BVS, but yes, Zack did get carried away. Just like with Rebel Moon, he was able to do whatever he wanted. He got carried away. Now, with the Snyder Cut, he was able to do whatever he wanted, but I think him and Terrio worked more as a team in that film, and I think he listened to Chris Terrio quite a bit with the Snyder Cut. That's why it's his best movie. It's the best movie he's ever been involved with because he did have the freedom. He created something utterly special. He made a unique 4-hour Justice League movie that will never be forgotten. It is one of the best films and one of the best comic book movies, if not the best ever made. It is an amazing attempt at a Justice League movie, and I defy anyone to do better. But they're going to have to. And they're going to have to do it without Zack Snyder because, because they're never, ever, doesn't look like ever going to ask him back. It doesn't look like it. But then again, as Ben Affleck said, anything is possible. And absolutely right now, in a very desperate industry, when we're seeing what Donald Trump is doing to them now, he wants to charge them 100% tariffs if they're making Hollywood movies outside of America, because apparently Trump wants to make Hollywood great again. Utter nonsense. Nothing's going to happen. It's just him distracting the world while he does nothing in his job as actually being president. The man is the ultimate distractor, ultimate con man. He's a twat. Let's stop talking about him, right? Anyway, so there we are. Henry Cavill was trending. They panicked and they got Umberto to release this quote. Now, I wasn't really keeping an eye on the trend and the hashtag Henry Cavill is Superman, but I can assure you that it was still trending. WB really didn't affect anything because, as I say, it doesn't matter that Mike DeLuca said that he likes James Gunn and he likes what he's done with this Superman movie. Of course he's going to say that, right? If they put 100 people in the cinema and showed them a cut, if they were quoting test screening audiences and said, oh my God, it's an amazing film, then maybe that would make a difference. But for me, I believe that firing Henry Cavill and treating Henry the way they did, people didn't like it. And in terms of Henry, it's not just the Snyder fans that are unhappy. There's, the general audience actually loved Henry as Superman. Maybe not all of them liked the way Snyder went at it and Goyer went at it with Man of Steel, what Snyder and Terrio did with BVS. But the general audience still see Henry Cavill as Superman. And, I think that Star Wars girl, who's a YouTuber, sums it up. She's not a Snyder fan. And, she doesn't particularly like what Snyder did. I've seen videos of her slaughtering BVS or whatever she did, right? And I remember doing a video and slaughtering her back here. But she loves Henry Cavill as Superman. She thinks he's attractive. That's the thing. Women love Cavill, right? And they love him as Superman, right? And of course Snyder knows this and he's giggling in the background. Of course Henry's loving all of this, right? So this is really hurting what Gunn, Safran and Zaslav, DC Studios and Warner Brothers Discovery are attempting to do. They fired Henry Cavill, an unproblematic dude who loves his gig, who loves the fans, who respects the fans, and the fans love him. I love him. There were some debates yesterday when we were celebrating his birthday, all the Snyder fans going, the best Superman ever. I would never say that. I will put Henry Cavill up there equally with Christopher Reeve. But I still believe what Reeve did was sensational. In terms of his physical performance, the flying sequences, which I believe are superior to anything that's ever been done in CGI. The fact that he played Clark as a separate entity to Superman, that must have been energy sapping for any actor, being an actor myself. So I do put Chris slightly ahead of Henry, but I love Henry Cavill as Superman. He's an outstanding Superman, and I will always appreciate Man of Steel, BVS, and Zack Snyder's Justice League for sure. But Henry Cavill's removal and replacement as Superman is an uncomfortable truth, is an uncomfortable situation for this studio. And if this movie makes money, it's despite them firing Henry Cavill because there's a lot of people that are not happy. But the reality is, if James Gunn has made a great Superman movie, it makes little difference. It's sad for Zack, it's sad for Henry, right? But at least Henry did play Superman in Man of Steel and BVS and the Snyder Cut. At least he's always got that. But him not getting a direct sequel to Man of Steel straight after the release of Man of Steel, the first one, is the biggest mistake that they ever made. So we wait for this trailer, we wait for this huge marketing now. July can't come soon enough.